Airbnb is finished. During the pandemic, millions of people from the United Kingdom were stranded on the island, which resulted in a significant increase in the market for short-term rentals. However, now that the virus has been contained and individuals are free to travel anywhere they like, holiday let reservations all throughout the United Kingdom have begun to plummet. In addition to this, there are some new rules that are being enacted that will make the ownership of a holiday let far less appealing, and in some regions it will even be impossible. Does this mean that short-term rentals in the UK are no longer an option? The market for short-term rentals is now experiencing a number of changes, and I'll discuss the reasons for these changes in this video. In addition to that, I will discuss the effects that this will have on investors as well as the property market as a whole. So let's get into it then. So the first section I'm going to speak about is the temperature and demand during different seasons. The primary reason for this crash in short-term stay bookings is fairly straightforward. There are some very stunning locations in the United Kingdom, yet with only 25 days of annual holiday, the majority of people simply want to be outside. Consequently, if you had to choose between a beach in Bournemouth that might be prone to rain or a beach in Spain that's sure to be 25 degrees Celsius, I know which one I'd choose. In spite of the fact that summer bookings continue to be robust and British vacationers continue to have trust that the sun will make an appearance, the most important factor in running a successful holiday rental is recruiting guests throughout the months of the year when there is less demand. There is no way that you'll ever have a full schedule or be able to charge the highest rates, but at the very least you need to be able to cover your expenses. An issue will arise if an increase in number of people are enticed to have their winter and spring holidays in other countries. The weather is not solely to blame for this significant decrease in rental reservations. The weather in the United Kingdom has always been really terrible. Indeed, the pandemic was the primary factor that brought about a more significant shift in the market. I'll share with you a typical narrative of investors that I have spoken to in order to assist you in understanding this development. Consider Jack as an illustration of this. In the aftermath of the initial lockdown, Jack had accumulated some savings and was able to observe that there was an increase in demand for holiday lets in the area of his residence in Scarborough. Therefore, in order to begin riding the wave of staycations in the United Kingdom, he purchased a home and began listing it on Airbnb as soon as he could. If Jack were the only person doing this, then he would have been fine. But that wasn't the case. Almost everyone and their dog started renting out their homes for short-term periods of time, which resulted in the market becoming extremely overcrowded. During the 12 months leading up to February of this year, AirDNA, a company that monitors listings of vacation or holiday rental websites such as Airbnb and VRBO, discovered that there was 342,000 short-term rentals available in the United Kingdom. When compared to the prior year, this is a 19% increase. It goes without saying that this is not distributed uniformly across the nation. There are evident areas where demand is at its highest and supply has popped up for the purpose of meeting that need. For instance, South Lakeland experienced a 1,231% increase in the number of short-term listings between the years 2016 and 2020, and Cornwall witnessed a 661% increase in the number of short-term listings to September 2021. The local market for long-term rentals is under a significant amount of pressure as a result of this oversupply, which not only results in a decrease in demand when the market contracts. In certain regions, research has shown that the increase in the number of holiday homes has effectively reduced the amount of new housing supply by more than 50%. The expansion of holiday lets in Copeland and Cambria virtually corresponded to the number of new houses that were being created, which indicates that there was no overall increase in the amount of housing available to local residents. As I predicted, legislation to limit the number of holiday lets was undoubtedly on its way. At the beginning of this year, it ended up happening. As far as the market for short-term rentals is concerned, this is the true killer. Individual investors in long-term buy-to-let property were put at a disadvantage when the government initiated tax adjustments in 2015. In the past, they were able to consider mortgage interest to be a cost of conducting business, which resulted in a reduction of taxable profits. A lesser tax credit was introduced in its place, and this was gradually tapered down. Nevertheless, this modification did not apply to holiday rentals that were furnished, which made them more appealing for overnight stays. Several recent legislative changes include the following. In February this year, the government announced that they would apply the same tax rules to holiday lets and remove another tax law that allowed owners to reduce taxable profits by writing off the cost of furnishings. In addition, the establishment of a new short-term rental property will now necessitate the purchase of planning approval, which will give local authorities the authority to refuse permission and manage the number of rentals. The short-term rental industry is going to suffer a significant blow as a result of these changes when taken together. So what does this mean for short-term rental businesses and property investment in general? Well, putting it all together, the collapse in demand, oversupply, and unwelcome tax changes. What does this mean for the short-term rental sector and property investment in general? It's possible that we've reached the peak of holiday lets because of the imbalance between supply and demand. Landlords would have been left with empty booking calendars even if the government had not intervened. This would have prompted some landlords to sell their properties or convert them back to long-term rentals. The changes in taxation will encourage a greater number of individuals to make that choice as well, given the enormous impact they have on profitability. While I'm not the only advocate for government intervention in all aspects of our lives, I can't entirely blame them on this one. The speaker said, in reference to the function of the government and the stability of the market, in the overall balance of homes that are available, the movement of property between the long-term rental sector and the owner-occupier sector does not affect the overall balance. On the other hand, the growth of the short-term rental industry does. There are some concentrated places that are seeing considerable consequences, despite the fact that the impact is rather minor across the entire country. I've never understood why there is such a significant difference in the tax status of a holiday let compared to a long-term buy-to-let rental. Equalisation through the reversion of rules for long-term lets would have been my preferred option. Since it's not going to take place, it should not come as a surprise that it has been deleted for holiday rentals. So does this mean that short-term accommodation operators are doomed to a future of low demand and non-existent profit? Is a question that could be asked about the future of short-term rentals. Certainly not at all. However, as is the case with any modifications of this nature, we will only observe the impact on the margins. The majority of damage will be felt by operations that are poorly managed and located in unfavourable areas. For the past 10 years, the student housing industry has experienced the exact same scenario that we've talked about in this video. Professional institutional operators went in and developed thousands of additional student bedrooms in prime locations with superb facilities. These rooms were located in prime situations. The majority of operations that offered accommodations of a high standard and located in desirable areas were not impacted. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe and comment so we can continue the conversation. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.